Most men leak their power through their mouths, constantly justifying their choices and begging for validation. But a Stoic man knows that explanation is often a form of weakness. He carries a silent weight that commands respect without saying a single word. Do you want to stop being a pleaser and start being a powerhouse? Today we're revealing the 6 private boundaries that define a truly unshakable man. Subscribe now and let's master the art of silence together. The first thing a Stoic man never explains is his grand ambitions or his next big move. There is a psychological trap called social reality, where telling someone your goals makes your brain feel like you've already achieved them. You get a cheap hit of dopamine from the praise of your potential, and suddenly the hunger to actually do the hard work vanishes. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." This applies to your success too. When you explain your plans, you are often looking for permission or validation. 2 things a Stoic never requires. Consider the story of a young apprentice who spent his days telling his master about the great temple he would one day build. The master simply handed him a hammer and a single stone. While the apprentice talked, the master had already laid 10 rows of brick. Your results should be the only noise you make. When you live in silence, your progress becomes a mystery to the world and a certainty to yourself. This mystery creates a natural gravity. People are drawn to those who achieve without announcing. By keeping your ambitions private, you protect your energy from the cynicism of others and the complacency of your own ego. You don't need to explain why you're working late, why you're investing your money, or why you're skipping the party. The fruit of your labor will eventually speak a language that everyone understands. But until then, the blueprint remains your secret alone. If you explain the why before the what is finished, you've already lost the battle of discipline. The second thing a Stoic man keeps to himself is his internal struggles and past wounds. We live in an era of oversharing, where trauma is often used as social currency to gain sympathy. But to the Stoic, your wounds are yours to heal, not yours to display. Seneca famously said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage," but he didn't suggest you should complain about it to every passerby. When you explain your pain to people who haven't earned the right to hear it, you aren't seeking healing, you're seeking pity. Pity is the poison of respect. There is an old legend of a Spartan boy who caught a live fox and hid it under his cloak. Even as the fox began to gnaw at his stomach, the boy remained silent and expressionless, refusing to let his internal agony break his external composure. While we don't need to be that extreme, the lesson is clear. Your ability to carry your own weight is where your strength is forged. When you stop explaining your struggles to others, you realize that you have the power to overcome them internally. You become a fortress. This doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you don't let that pain define your public identity. By keeping your battles private, you avoid the trap of the victim mentality. You are the architect of your future, not a prisoner of your history. If you've been betrayed or hurt, don't explain the story to get people on your side. Let your resilience be the answer. When people see a man who is unshakable despite whatever storms might be hitting him, they don't see a victim, they see a leader. Silence in the face of suffering is the ultimate demonstration of self-mastery. Third, a Stoic man never justifies his personal standards or his no. If you value waking up at 5 a.m., skipping the alcohol, or staying disciplined with your diet, you will inevitably face pressure from those who don't. The world loves to drag a disciplined man back down to the level of the mediocre. When you start explaining why you have these standards, you are essentially putting your values up for debate. Epictetus taught us that we have no control over other people's opinions, so why waste energy trying to change them? Imagine a man at a dinner party who refuses to drink. His friends mock him, demanding an explanation. If he starts explaining his health goals or his philosophy, they will find loopholes to argue with him. But if he simply says no and remains silent, the power stays with him. He doesn't need them to understand, he only needs them to respect the boundary. Your no is a complete sentence. By refusing to explain your standards, you signal that your life is governed by an internal compass, not a social committee. This builds a reputation of integrity. People may not always like your rules, but they will respect that you have them, and that you aren't looking for a consensus. Every time you justify your discipline, you weaken it. Every time you hold the line in silence, you strengthen your character. Fourth, a Stoic never explains his good deeds or his acts of charity. In a world of virtue signaling, where every donation or kind act is captured on a smartphone for likes, the Stoic acts for the sake of the act itself. To a Stoic, virtue is its own reward. If you do something good and then tell someone about it, you have traded the purity of the act for a bit of social praise. You've essentially been paid for your kindness, which makes it a transaction, not a virtue. There is a story of a wealthy man who used to walk through the poorest parts of the city at night, leaving bags of gold on doorsteps and running away before he could be thanked. He wanted the help to be felt, but the giver to be unknown. As Marcus Aurelius said, when you have done a good act and another has received it, why do you look for a third thing, the reputation for having done a good act? When you keep your kindness private, it builds a quiet internal confidence. You know who you are when no one is watching, and that is the only opinion that matters. Explaining your generosity often comes off as bragging, even if you disguise it as inspiring others. Real inspiration comes from a man's character, not his PR department. By keeping your light under a bushel, you ensure that your heart remains focused on service rather than ego. Fifth, a Stoic man never explains his response to insults or petty gossip. If someone speaks ill of you, the natural impulse is to defend your honor and explain why they are wrong. But to a Stoic, defending yourself against a fool only proves that their words have power over you. Cato the Younger, a great Stoic statesman, was once spat upon in public while he was arguing a case. Instead of getting angry or explaining why he deserved respect, he simply wiped the spit from his face and said, "I will swear to anyone, Lentulus, that they are mistaken who say you cannot use your mouth." He used wit and silence rather than a defensive explanation. When you explain yourself to a critic, you are giving them a seat at your table. You are saying your opinion of me is important enough that I must correct it. A Stoic knows that what others think of him is none of his business. If someone calls you a liar and you know you're truthful, your silence is a more powerful rebuttal than 1,000 words of defense. As Epictetus said, if you learn that someone is speaking ill of you, don't try to defend yourself against the rumors. Respond instead with, "Yes, and he doesn't know the half of my other faults either, or he wouldn't have stopped with these." This level of detachment makes you untouchable. When you stop explaining your side of the story, the drama dies from a lack of oxygen. Sixth, a Stoic man never explains his personal growth or why he has changed. People who knew the old you will often feel threatened by the new you. They will ask why you're acting differently, why you're so serious, or why you've changed your mind about things you used to love. You owe them no apology for evolving. Growth is a silent, organic process. You don't see a tree explaining to the grass why it's growing taller. It just reaches for the sun. If you've decided to leave behind toxic habits or change your philosophy on life, the people around you will see the change in your actions. Explaining your growth often invites people to try and pull you back into your old skin. They want the version of you that made them feel comfortable with their own stagnation. When you stop explaining your evolution, you allow your results to be the evidence. If you are more patient, more disciplined, and more focused, that will be evident in how you handle your business and your relationships. You don't need a rebranding announcement. The most powerful changes are the ones that are felt, not heard. Let your new life be a quiet testament to your progress. Finally, we come to the most important realization. Silence is not about being cold or secretive. It is about being self-contained. A Stoic man is a complete unit. He doesn't look to the outside world to fill the gaps in his self-esteem through constant explanation. By practicing these 6 silences, you reclaim the energy you've been wasting on the opinions of others. You stop being a performer and start being a producer. You become the master of your own narrative because you are the only one who needs to read it. Remember the words of Zeno, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, therefore we should listen twice as much as we speak." When you stop explaining, you start observing. You start seeing the world as it is, rather than how you want to describe it. This script isn't just a list of rules, it's a blueprint for a more powerful, grounded version of yourself. In the end, the man who explains nothing often possesses everything. He has his dignity, his focus, and his peace of mind. He knows that his life is not a trial where he must constantly prove his innocence to a jury of peers. His life is a mission, and missions are won through execution, not through press releases. As you go out into the world today, try a small experiment. When someone asks you to justify a personal choice or an ambition, simply smile, give a brief, polite answer, and move on. Notice how much power stays within your chest. Notice the strength that grows in the absence of noise. You don't need to explain your greatness. You only need to embody it. Go forth and be the silent force that the world cannot help but respect. Your silence is your shield, and your actions are your sword. Use them well.